projects to work on. And I was chatting with Gideon a few minutes ago, and we thought it makes it makes some sense to spend 10 minutes of this call looking at the upcoming proposal, the priorities stated on the upcoming proposal, just to give everyone also a bit of ideas on what to work on in case someone did not came as prepared to today's planning session. 1 second to share my screen. Let me know if y'all can see it.
I copied and pasted it in the chat too.
Okay, thanks. So it's in chat as well. Well, I guess I'll start. I'll just mention all the projects and probably a quick description, and we can have some questions or comments around them, and then we go straight into the board to actually plan this sprint. So on this upcoming proposal, we have five priorities, five work priorities, or projects. In my point of view, at least, the first one is the grants round 3. So pretty much just run another round and keep on working on the QF tool, and of course, as we've been talking about, inject more or have a process to get more feedback from the whole process from the advisory network, say questions in the forums or criteria, etc., and also do build a sponsorship program to try to get some projects to invest into the round. The second one is the community events. So specifically the TE as public goods series. We had the first episode, I guess, during the grants round, and it seemed to be or have somewhat of an impact. So we want to continue that, and that's one of the projects we have to take on. This is one of the projects that are on the planning stage. So this sprint would be nice to actually make a document, make a plan to see frequency, format, whatever it is. And then we have also the community call, which we have the first one happening in this late September on the 20th. We have to both promote this first community call, but also find a leader for that community call, for the community calls and the structure, the guests, whatever, on the long run. Well, actually, maybe if that's fine, maybe I hand it over to you, Gideon, for these last 3 ones. You have a bit more context about these?
Yeah, sure. So the incubation program is the one that is the least defined, but it's basically this idea of what comes after the QF rounds. QF rounds don't generally result, well, they just plain don't result in a lot of money going to projects. And I think there's some legitimate questions about the role that TEC plays in funding public goods if we can't, if we're just capped at like 5K per project. And so this is looking at what might be the next rounds of support for public goods grants, but also I think there's an opportunity here to look at whether there are some projects that are not grants, but they're actually investments. And we've talked about that in the past. There are a lot of questions around that. But like projects like Inverter Network, also the AI project that we funded for Angela and Rohan, like if that ends up being income producing, then what was that 60K that we put into it? So This is kind of looking at next stage funding for projects that we care about as a community. So that's number 3. Number 4 is basically work that I'm going to do when I get back, which is putting together plans for next year that basically are kind of like outlining just some basics on who our audience is, like what the segments are, what, how we communicate. Probably a lot around this framing of token engineering as public goods. But like, how does the SME QF tool fit in? It's just like, how do we talk about ourselves, and then using that as part of the way that we pitch for grants, but also just in general when we're trying to raise funds. And then the last one is something that we've talked about, I think, a little bit here, but it's basically we still don't have a lot of money coming in. We don't really have much of any money coming into the TEC, so the common pool is continuing to drain. And so as we work on the fundraising and on setting ourselves up so that like the grants program is at least net neutral, how do we ensure that we have good discipline on basically budgeting our spend down? So we've done that with operations. We have cut the operational spend with the coordination team so that it's budgeted at a fixed amount of like 11 or 12K a month. We've done that with the public goods, with the QF program. That's like 25K a quarter, and we're trying to get those costs covered. And then there's still this kind of remaining, I'm going to call it a vector, which is that people could come in and use DAO voting to spend a fair amount of money. And we don't really have a good way of budgeting that. And so the question is, does it make sense for us to do that, to like carve out particular buckets where we say, let's say this incubation program is something that goes beyond the 25K of the QF program? Like, do we have any limits around that? What other kinds of limits? And so the biggest question here is kind of carving out what in the nonprofit world would be called fiduciary responsibility for the resources of the DAO, and probably moving that over into the TEC Advisory Network, or TCAN, as like one of its core areas of responsibility. And so what does that look like? Okay. The other, I'll hand it back to you, Isaac. The other things you could probably talk about.
Yeah. Okay. So now pretty much, I guess I'll just open it up a bit for 1 second, and see if there's any questions, comments, feedback, whatever. If not, we jump straight onto the board. But the idea is just to like, these are the things that we have to do for the next, for what's left of the year. So just to get a sense of, or at least to spark some ideas of what could everyone start doing this sprint, or at least the upcoming ones. Five, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so if that's all clear, yeah, get it.
Oh no, sorry, go ahead.
Okay. Also, if that's all clear, let's now go to the board in Notion. Starting with the past sprint, just checking in on what happened the past sprint very quickly, and moving everything to, or at least what needs to be moved to this new one. Starting with you, Gideon. I see one that's done, 2 that are in progress. Maybe you want to chat about them and see if it's good to move them to this new sprint, or what should we do with them?
Yeah, so with this one, I am waiting for the draft of the document is done. I'm waiting for some comments right now. I actually have some questions about this that I haven't yet had a chance to talk to Bear about, and I want to talk to Tam about that today too. So I'm going to leave this. I'm going to pass this into the next sprint.
Okay. This one.
That's what we're working on right now. Bear's leading it, but I think we're getting
Okay,
close.
I see it on screen 10 as well, so that's good. And then I don't know if you want to say something about this one or.
This one's done. It's done. It's I put it out for comments. I didn't really get any comments back from folks, but I think that's probably okay. Like I just captured everything that we did this round, and I think it should be pretty self-explanatory.
Where can we find that?
I think the link is in there. Let me see. If it's not, I'll put it in there.
And where's the link to this Notion board?
One sec. But that's here on the coordination team. I'll copy the link and send it here on the.
I was
Both
thinking,
sounds
I'll just throw this out there. What might be interesting at some point, we can label each of these with those 5 topics that are in the document to get like a color coding. I think that's
You
for
mean like
later.
the tasks?
Yeah, yeah. Each task can fall under the 5 work priorities from the operating budget.
Yeah, yeah. Right now, I'm working towards that, but right now you can think of the priorities as projects. If you look at the projects, it's pretty close to. I don't have the new proposals one here, but it's pretty close to, like, so for example, the Tigran's round 2 has all the tasks associated with it as well. Or you can filter it here too, like from project and all that.
Excellent. Thanks for sharing the link.
You have the link already, Gideon, from the playbook?
Yeah, what I'm also going to do is I'm not sure everybody realizes this, but there is a public drive that Rex created for us, and I just put the link in there. So what I've been doing recently is, so if you go to that link, you'll see there's a ton of documents. This is where the coordination team puts its documents. And so like this I'll put the link to this grants marketing playbook, the TE grants marketing playbook, but that's in that same, it's in one of the folders there. So you can always find stuff there, or not always, but I'm trying to get into the habit of putting any documents that are important in these folders. And I think we should all try to do that.
Great. I like that. Looks like it's in fundraising, marketing, and outreach.
Yeah, that's right.
Yep, market playbook. Great. Thanks, Gideon and Rex, for making that drive.
Okay. So now moving on. It's Joseph. I don't know if you moved what you had, Joseph, to the new sprint, or if you wanna update anything.
No, I didn't have anything to move to the new sprint.
Okay. 1 second. So then it's me. I had a few tasks that I moved already onto the new sprint. I can talk about them later. And then there's a community call, which is, I we work with Efra to make like a few templates that we could use. I think I can show all of them right now. Uh, and also I like as part of the call, I wanted to schedule the first one. And so for the first one, we have YGG talk about QS stuff. Um, I'm not sure if this is like the final banner with the description and all that we'll share. But for now, this is what we have. I don't know if you could.
I
Okay,
like
it's
it.
on the
I think
screen.
that's great. Who made that?
Um, Efra made the template. I just changed the names.
Who made the template?
Efra. Well, he's not like a usual contributor, but
This looks really cool. Do you know what font that is?
what?
Do you know what font that is?
Um, I can check that. I'm not really sure. I have the Figma file. Like what we did is quote him to do editable, like a Figma file with multiple templates that we could just edit. That we have really good designs from
Great,
community calls
great.
anytime. So we have like multiple.
This is a great asset.
Yeah. So we can use it every community call. We can just change the template, or for other activities we can use it. We can use this as well. So that's
Just a
that.
very, yeah, I agree. These are very cool. Just one small comment. The number
Mhm.
one next to Discord is a little confusing. It doesn't look like the number that refers to the like the community call. It's like number one Discord or number one weekly. Just that threw me off. I was trying to figure out what was number two Discord instead of community call. Not
That's
big,
good
but I
feedback.
think as we start to use it, we'll discover that.
That's actually very good feedback. Oh, let me note that down here. Notion. Where's Notion?
Also, while you're doing that, Isaac, I just also put a link in the chat. This is a link to all of the TEC branding assets. So you'll see in there the graphics, but also our fonts. We have specific fonts that we've used for most of the branding. So that's all in that link.
Thanks, Gideon.
Hey, Auntie, so that you can just keep facilitating this call, I'm happy to drop it, just a note in that issue for later, okay?
Oh, that's fine. Thanks. Well, that we have that. By the way, this may change for the upcoming community calls. This one was just to roll that out. Uh, please check if you can make it on September 20th before we announce it. Just to make sure that at least we are all joining the community call. And if we have to change times, just let me know, or what did you know? We can see what works best. Okay.
Hey, Isaac.
Mm-hmm.
I have a question for you. So, given what we were talking about last week, you, Bear, and Nate and I, about having Nate take over the community, like events and stuff, do you think it makes sense I mean, it seems like you guys should at least be collaborating on that, or like maybe handing over some of like the longer term. I mean, it sounds like this one's kind of like some of it's done, but it would be good to have Nate start to take over more of that stuff. It seems like.
Oh yeah. I should have been a bit more clear, I guess. But my intention with this task was just kick it off, but I wasn't planning to sort of have all the have the community call project program on top of me. I'll check in with Nate later.
Yeah, I just want to say this is a major project, and we should take an opportunity to think about the process of it. I like how Gideon made the QF round marketing playbook, and maybe we'll have like a community call playbook, and we can think about what is the purpose of the community call, what is the frequency, and what are the metrics that we're tracking, and yeah, this is a whole operation. And even though it's September 20th, we can start to think about what we can do today. It would be nice if this kind of card gets tweeted out, because I've been tweeting like kind of about some of the results I've been going through with quadratic funding, and so it might be nice to sort of reference this from the TEC on Twitter, like as I'm tweeting. So yeah, just like thinking about roadmaps on launching these kinds of community calls. This is really exciting.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much the thing now would be to like we have this first one, we have to make like a presentation for the first 10 15 minutes to just chat about what the team is doing, and then the guest have the guest presentation. So like, and there's quite a few things to work on. What's important, I guess, is that we have the first one planned, so we have to do that. Yes, yes. Um, cool.
Yeah, I just if I may just say one last thing. So I can see three I don't know, features. Like one is the community presentations. So someone like myself presenting quadratic funding deep dive. Number two is like giving an overview of the community and what we're up to at the TEC, kind of like how the community calls used to be. And yesterday I hopped in here with someone, and there was no agenda. We just started chatting, and it was so fruitful. It was OX Block Boy. And so I'm thinking of these three different features, which are community presentations on token engineering and community updates, and then also free space where people gather and chat. And we can start to pull apart these features and think about what is the community call for, and then what other spaces are we creating as well. The reason I go into that level of detail right now is because I'm just curious, like with the community call on the 20th, I was kind of expecting it to be just like a 1 hour block for a presentation, but it sounds like there might be a community update portion of it. So just getting clear on what the time expectations are for for that. And you can throw me into a group to go into the detail. I know I'm taking up a lot of space on this one topic.
No, that's completely fine. We do have to chat about that. Maybe at least for this first community call, we just chat on our regular meeting on Thursday. Yeah, and then we see for the coming ones, how do we fit everything.
And I want to jump into, because I agree. I think it's really important, and this is our first one. I think it's important that we put some thought and care into it. I do see that the community call planning, there is an open task, and it's assigned to Nate. Nate, are you actively working on that? And I think maybe it's a good time also to share your initial thoughts if you have them already.
Yeah, YGG covered a lot of it. I think that, planning the event should have some elements of understanding what we're trying to accomplish, and especially at the beginning of the call. I was thinking more of like a kind of a 30-minute session of deep dive with the quadratic funding that you're going through YGG, and in the first 30 minutes, we kind of make it more casual and engaging with the rest of the token engineering community. But that within that 30 minutes, depending on what we want to be conveying, is the most important thing that we have to figure out and creating a narrative. And so within this sprint, I plan on having kind of that working document to share around with everyone to make sure that we share ideas on how we want to approach this. I do like the idea of having some free space, especially in our Discord after community calls, to make that kind of a tradition. I think that would be really interesting to just say, hey, for an hour after every community call each month, we're going to have people just jamming out on token engineering. I think that'd be really interesting. But yeah, the point of that is just to get the ideas out there. And I think we can do a lot of testing with the format of this first community call, and I think we can try some things out and see what works.
I really love the idea of open hangout sessions. It brings me back to the university days when there'd be like a guest lecturer give a special talk, and then people would just hang out afterwards. Like usually there'd be pizza, and some people would just hang out for a couple hours, like chatting. Great. Oh yeah, I wanted to say I wonder if, Isaac, you mentioned going into some further details of this on Thursday. I wonder if we should make that like a community call. On Thursdays, Isaac and I work through the QF product at TEC and the progress that's being made on that. I wonder if we should make that a public event and maybe even add it to the calendar, because that is a good space to invite Nate to kind of chat about the community call coming up. And then anyone else who wants to track the QF results. I know Gideon wanted to jump in there as well.
Uh, well, I think I told you my opinion last week. We chatted briefly about it. In, at least in my opinion, we can like it is indeed open because we make it on the server. I don't think we should announce it. Uh, if anything, just invite everyone here on the team, because at the end of the day, it's a relaxed session, but it's a working session. I'm afraid, I just don't want everyone joining and then it distracting us from advancing on whatever we have to work right now, the QF tool, for example.
Yeah, just maybe a midway point between the two where it's easy for like people in this call to find their way in there and know that it's happening. Maybe we can plug it into the Discord server like a reminder. I'm not sure the best way to do that, but yeah.
Yeah, and well, I guess just the last thing before moving on. If anyone is interested, just drop us a message, and I'm happy to add you to the calendar invite. And if we all are fine, I can also add it to the regular calendar here in Discord.
Just quick question: is it a good time just to lock down the date so that we don't have to do any async about that? I think everyone is here who needs to say September 20th works for them.
Oh yeah, that's fine. So well, we had planned September 20th at 2 p.m. EST. That's like 5-6 UTC, something like that. Yeah,
Is
that's
anyone?
6
Yeah,
UTC.
can anyone not make that? Or maybe thumbs up if you can. I don't know. We could do both ways. Anyone who can should holler, and if you can, just thumbs up. Oh, cool. Looks like we have a date. Yay!
Let's go. Nice. Cool. So we are locked down with the 20th. That's fine. Now let's continue with Bear. You have 4 tasks here. One is paused, and the other ones are in progress.
Wait, hey Isaac, are
Yeah.
we still going off of the operating or the proposal?
Yeah. I'm just checking on the past sprint, because if there's work left that needs to be finished, needs to be finished anyway. So.
Okay.
Bear.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so I have these 4 items. This the tech support Notion page is documentation about the credentials management and tech support work that Rex owns. We've been doing some good progress on it, documenting already the processes he has implemented. I included that document there if people are curious about it. So we've been meeting like every 2 weeks. It's been kind of like a slow process, but it's getting there. So I'm hoping that we might be able to get this done, probably not this sprint, but maybe next sprint. I like this coming sprint to be able to focus more on the proposal and on the planning. But for sprint 11, I think I'll retake this and have a chat with Rex again. And I think we're pretty close. I think it's more about formatting of the document, but the content itself, most of it's there. So there's that. And then we have the role tiering. Thank you, Isaac, for moving it to 11. Yeah. Perfect. Then for role tiering, this was part of the work that I did for the proposal and the budgeting. So it was about categorizing by tier the current functional roles that we have and then come up with this some sort of different type of compensation structure based on responsibilities, basically just a different hourly wage for each of the tiers. That's done. That's part of the work again that was done for the budget of the proposal. The only thing that I'm missing is to documentation on this. So I would like to include this as part of our Notion documentation in terms of roles. That's something that I would like to take on this coming sprint and just get this done. But it's almost there. So I already put it into sprint 10, and that should be good. Then we have the funding proposal. That one is almost there. I would have liked it to be completed before, but this weekend and this last week, it was kind of like a bit crazy for me. So, my plan is to probably finish it today. It's just about just missing to include the budget in the numbers and a couple of more things. But most of it's already there. It's completed. And I would like to have it posted this week, in the coming days. I would also like to maybe get one more round of review, maybe in regards with some edits and stuff, and it should be ready to go. So yeah, I just moved it to sprint 10 because it's gonna get completed during sprint 10. And then we have the impact tracker. That one was also completed. It was already posted and everything. And I just had one more little task there that I would also like to maybe get some input about it. I was just thinking, how far should we go maybe in regards with promoting these reports? Because I've noticed this even from the previous report that we did, that sometimes I feel it doesn't get much attention and maybe people missed it, or I don't know what's exactly the issue there. But I was thinking maybe it would be a good idea to send an announcement through the server, through the Discord server, maybe even tweeting about it. I'm not too sure. So maybe just I would like to open it up right now just to maybe get some thoughts, some ideas on that, and then I can get this done probably today probably today.
I can easily send out a tweet on that. We're looking for some content for the Twitter feed, so I think that'd be great. And
Awesome.
it's good. It's a really good report, so I think it's important to start doing that.
Cool. Thanks, Gideon. Yeah. I was thinking that, right? Like maybe with a tweet and with a announcement on the Discord, that should probably be enough. So if that sounds like a good plan, then we can get that done today.
I think, I don't know if this is done, but also just presenting internally is interesting. Like, this kind of comes back to the conversation of like, what is the content we're going to have here? But I think it'd be nice to present this kind of report like internally. Not sure if that happens or where that happens, or if that makes sense. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
that's-
it does make sense.
That's interesting. Yeah.
So I mean, it's on the forum, which is one way, but also that just made me think it'd be nice to share that on the community call as well.
Yeah, definitely. That would be also, I think, a really good place to do it. I shared it async, like on our group chats, just kind of that. But yeah, maybe the community call would be a good time to do it as well. I'll include that as part of the task.
One thing that I think is going to be really important, Nate, when you're pulling together the document about the community calls is what's the purpose? I think we just need to be crystal clear about the very first, like what is the primary purpose? What is the secondary purpose? And don't have like a third, fourth, fifth. Just like keep it simple, because one of the things that I think kind of drove people away from our calls before was that it was just so focused on reporting out what each working group was doing, and people who were actually interested in the topic matter kind of just lost interest. So I think my personal take, but this is just my personal take, but my personal take is this should really be about rebuilding the community and attracting the people we want for the future of the TEC. That to me seems like the first priority. and secondary should be about accountability. But whatever we choose, we should be deliberate about it. So Nate, I would encourage you to, like, as a very first step, really just nail that and get some feedback from people on that first question. Because once you nail that, everything else will flow.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I think I would share that perspective as well. But yeah, maybe once that's figured out, Nate, about the community goal, we can then decide if it's a good idea to include the report in there or not. Either way, I think it's good that it's already in the forum, right? Like, in terms of accountability, it's there. Like, if people is interested about reading what we've been up to, they can definitely do it, right? So yeah, let's wait on that. And yeah, I think that's on my side for last sprint, Isaac. Pass it back to you.
Cool, thanks. Then we have Matamine, who's not here, and now Nate. You have this one on Donna. I don't know if you want to give like a very brief update, and if not, we can move on straight to the next one.
No real update. I am working on the external TEC page. That's a work in progress. I can put that in the sprint as well for the next one. But that one should be good. And there was one more task. I'm not sure if that was assigned to me.
I mean, I'm just looking right now. I'm just looking at the past sprint. Maybe you move them to the new one, but at least for the past one, you just have the
so
this
the
one.
other task in the past sprint is underdone.
Okay.
The
Okay.
TEGR2T grants round 2.
Okay, we'll check this sprint in a second. When we have time, well, you were on vacation, quote unquote, and Sean, well, the kiosk tool, we're working on it. But I don't know if you wanna say something about it.
Yeah, I'm excited to continue progress. I've been porting some of the functionality into an app, and so it's nice working in parallel, doing like some research and analysis, but also collecting some of the functionality into an application. And I'm excited to show that on Thursday.
Yeah, and I'm also really excited to see it in action, in the sense of, like, using it for this new round and actually getting new data from this one.
That's super exciting. We had a look through the data from round 2 last Thursday, and it's a lot more rich than round 1. There's way more donations, and there's way more like questionable behavior that we're excited to analyze.
Yeah, it looks really fun. Well, I'll chat. That's part of my tasks on this sprint, so I'll chat about that when my time comes. So now we go on to this new sprint. I guess remembering that we need to be working on based on, or preferably based on, the proposal we saw at the beginning of the call. So I'll start with you, Joseph. You're over here. Where are you working on this sprint?
Well, I messaged Bear behind the scenes to help him out on one of his tasks. It was the it was the tech support Notion page, but he said he said he would get back to me about that and where I could fit in. And I was going to message Nate about the Notion page to help him with support him in that task.
One thought, Joseph, is we're going to talk in a little bit about some of the events that we're going to be working on over this next 3-4 months. And Nate is going to be driving a lot of that. And so he's going to be driving all of that. So there may be some opportunities there to plug in, particularly with like media production and that kind of stuff. so and just kind of organizing with those events. So that would be something I think would be great.
Yeah. Well, so yeah. Okay. We can even chat later to organize your sprint specifically. Right now, it seems like you're going to plug in onto other tasks. So probably we just jump onto the next jump onto the other folks, and whenever there's a task, you're going to feed in about you as well. Um, Next one, there's me. I have all these tasks. Um, these I kind of started, but whatever. Okay. Won't go into much detail about these. These are just leftovers from the grants round, like um, calculate the matching boost and send the report, send an email to the grantees with the results and make a forum report and all that. There's also an implicit task of just following up with Gitcoin because they promised to help us do some civil analysis. That's pretty much my current blocker right now because to complete all these, I need first to have the clean data from the civil analysis. Um, then there's the promote community call that I made just before this call. And I assigned Gideon, Nate, whatever, just to see who is going to be the final owner. But just actually announce the community call now that we have it. I'll exit from this task and I'll probably just have the three of you guys there. Maybe once we jump onto Gideon, Nate, or Joseph, whoever, well, Gideon or Nate, whoever's first, we can see who's actually taking on that, who's actually being responsible for that one. Then we have the converted prospectus, milestones to project management. These two, I started doing some movements to the Notion base itself. Like I haven't really ported like the actual information about the projects. I have still to make some changes to Notion. Like for example, we have the programs here, projects, tasks. Then there's a few things that I have to connect between all of them. So I'm with that, and then I also have to take all the data and put it in here into Notion. And Tam is kindly going to help me with this as well. And finally, the create playbook process template for upcoming rounds, similar to what Gideon did to the marketing playbook. This is something I also started with Tam, and I'm working with Tam, and say an alpha version, an early version is this one. So we have that's like a high level overview. We have to do some more stuff in there. So that's pretty much it for this sprint. That's what I'm going to work on. I'm not sure if I'm going to complete everything, particularly the grants round 2 stuff, because it's just too dependent on Gitcoin. And they said I asked last week, and they said Connor, for example, wasn't Burning Man and all that. So I don't know. We'll have to see. Next one here we have you, Bear. I think all these 3 tasks were the same ones on the past sprint. So I don't know if you want to say something else about them or if you want to add anything else.
Yeah, so I have a couple of comments that I think they are connected with a bit with you, Isaac. First, in terms with I think it would be maybe important to include as part of that email to grantees the feedback form. I just remember that so we don't forget. I don't know if you want to add it as a separate task or as part of that one. How should we include it? But just not to forget about that. As well as the payment for Gitcoin. I saw yesterday that you shared some details on that, so I'm assuming that would probably need to get done during this sprint as well, if that's correct. And if that's the case, also maybe it would be worth to create a task on that one. And yeah, in regards with my work, I want to finalize these ones that I already have here. And yeah, not exactly sure how to approach uh, this new proposal, if we are kind of like going to brainstorm a bit on the different type of tasks that are needed for each of the projects first, and then we get them assigned, or should I kind of like get ahead and try to think about what I could be doing on that, or are we assigning kind of like owners to each of these projects first and then move from there? I'm still a bit not quite sure, not quite clear on that front. So maybe, yeah, not exactly sure what to do there.
I was going to suggest one thing about that, which is, and we talked, I think, Bear, you mentioned this last week. I can't remember who it was, but I think that while we're at the very beginning of this proposal, like so this upcoming funding proposal starts in September. So it's now September. So we're technically executing against this next proposal. And I think that the thing that we talked about last week, whoever it was that brought it up, was actually using this sprint as a time to get our heads around the work that we've got to do over the next 3 months. So it's like kind of a planning time, you know, to like put together. So like, just as Nate is going to be pulling together the plan for the community calls and probably the plan for these token engineering as public goods events, you know, I think we should be doing the same for the incubation. You know, what does that mean? The same for, well, all of these things that are listed on the proposal. Because if we wait until like October or November to actually start to generate those plans, they won't get done. That's my sense.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I agree on that. Yeah, just not sure, Isaac, how are you thinking on taking that process, if we should then, like Nate, as Nate it's assigned to these events, the community events project, should we define kind of like responsibles for the other ones, or people that can start working on these plans beforehand and make those tasks part of this sprint, or how should we go about this?
Well, I'd be very curious to hear Tam as well, but at least how I see it, we should um, so there's things that are way more obvious and that already kind of have owners. So say the grants program is something I can take like right away, and I'm probably taking it anyways, as I've taken the past two ones. The community calls, or community activities in general, we have spoken with Nate about that, so it makes sense for him, for example, to start working on a plan around that project. But at the same time, we have to be. I think it's going to be best for us if we are also just a bit patient, and so because when we when we finish doing the like the converting the prospectus and adding milestones and all that, like when we really complete all the structured information on Notion, or just in general, it's going to be way easier to see what work needs to be done and how and track it and all that, and assign clear owners and all that. So I guess it's kind of a mix of both. The ones that are more obvious, I think it's a no-brainer to just start working on them right away, and then just probably the second top priority is just to complete the milestones and project perspectives and all that as soon as possible.
I'll share my thinking on this too. It's very similar to that, except I would say maybe even on this call we start to the two that you just mentioned, I think, have clear owners. I think maybe what's missing here is like some very simple template for a project charter, so that we're all sharing the same information, like what's the an overall description. The descriptions are here actually, but it's sort of what would be missing was like, okay, what is the timeline? What are the milestones? What are the deliverables? What are the dates? And maybe if you own the TE grant rounds for the next 3 months, you have key deliverables and dates that will matter. We don't know exactly when Gitcoin will have the next round, but you can put a placeholder in, whether it's end October or beginning November. Like we can take some guesses with dates. They don't have to be exact until they are exact. And the same thing with community events. If this is something that Nate is really showing a skill for doing, and he seems to like to do it, maybe Nate just owns number 2, which is community events, and comes up with the plan for the next 3 months of how TE's public goods series will play out. And then in these issues themselves can update us, the rest of the team, and also the community on what's happening with that particular project. I mean, I think we can look at these as 5 different projects. I'm looking at the document now. And then there's an owner for each of these projects. The incubation program, I don't know who will own this first, but we could discuss who will start to, kickstart this by producing a kind of project charter for it. And the same thing with the TC narrative, fundraising, marketing plans. I think we can start to decide who's owning, moving it forward. And that doesn't mean that's the only person who's doing the work. That person will be, leaning on other people to do some pieces of the work, and will be doing a lot of advice process to pull something together. But that will be the person who's really owned for making sure it gets done in the timeline for this proposal. And I don't know if there's, of the next 3, the incubation program, the narrative, and fiduciary stewardship of the TE Common Pool. I don't know if I'd be very interested in hearing who's the most interested in working on that, and who is well positioned to work on those. In short, I think there should be an owner for each one, and then that person is sort of responsible to move it forward and to make sure that the rest of the team is updated on the progress.
Yeah, I just want to second everything Tamara just said. I think that's great, and that would lead to a lot of clarity and ease. I like the idea of whenever we're talking about something, some task, we know like what it falls under, and then who's ultimately owning and responsible for that task, and then also like the project that the task falls under. So just the context awareness that brings, I'm really excited about. And then we can all be aware of like where we're at relative to a project. Like, are we this project's owner? Are we this project's, are we like participating in the advice process? Because there's like, yeah, I can just see myself like relative to those kinds of roles, and the clarity will be nice. So
I also want to second that. I just think we've been moving in this direction slowly but surely, but I think those buckets are they're very natural loci for accountability. To get to your question, Tam, for number 4, this the TC narratives and fundraising, I've been planning that's what I'm going to focus on when I get back, and I'm probably going to start a little bit on that before I go, is starting to flesh that out. And the incubation program, I don't know. I mean, that's kind of an interesting question. I feel like, I could see, I definitely have a lot of thoughts on that. So I could see doing that, but I am going to be gone for a while. I could see Sean having a role there. I could see YG, I mean, I can see Isaac having a role there too. Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to say that one's really exciting to me. And it's something I would love to own. Like, I'm tempted to jump in and volunteer that. And just what's balancing me on the other side is I've really been enjoying focusing on one thing with the QF product and the QF tool. So there's kind of a balance there, but I find that super interesting. So potentially I could be like an owner on that, or at the very least be very active in like the advice process and the ideation.
Isaac, what's your level of interest on that incubation?
I guess I I have to think more about it. But and at the same time, like if thinking of balancing between, making sure all the projects are up to date on Notion and all the sprints and the grants program as well. I just don't know enough about incubation to see how, how time consuming it would be, for example, so things like that.
Well, we shouldn't get too hung up here, but I would be willing to take the lead in pulling together a plan for for feedback and stuff like that. And if I could count on the two of you to, and I don't know if there's anybody else who's interested in this too, but like I guess I'd be willing to take the lead in drafting some type of plan for that project, and just know that in October I won't be here, so maybe others could like keep it moving.
Yeah, I think that might be a good fit for me, is to pick that up in October. If you want to make some initial progress on it this month, then I'm happy to be very engaged in that as well. And yeah, and I think picking it up in October is something I could definitely be prepared to do. So that's exciting to me. There's another topic I want to bring up that I think fits between a few of the buckets. Is this idea of basically working groups, like having that well defined. I think the coordination group, if it's a working group, which I think it is very successful. I think it's a good model. And then we might want to have other working groups. This fits into the budgeting topic of like, what does that mean to have a working group? But I really like the idea of a token infrastructure working group that's looking at the TEC token, the bonding curve, the migration, the OP migration, and things like quadratic funding and conviction voting and how they fit in. Basically looking at oversight over the token infrastructure that we use in the DAO. Yeah, this concept of how do we define working groups and how does that fit into one of the buckets that we're looking at?
Yeah, I guess I'll just add, and we should. Well, we have just 1 hour left, so we're fine. No worries. But I think we also have to be mindful, because if, for example, if you Gideon won't be here during October, and we have all these pending projects, we also we have to see how do we balance all these, because we are not that big of a team. And for example, with projects like the grants program, we have moments where the whole team is like just in one project. So I guess that's also something to consider. I don't know if like we are probably, I don't know, 5 people, 6 people, and we have 5 projects. This is an open question. I'm not sure if we have enough capacity for every single person to take one project and you know work like we do with just the grants program, for example. We'll have to see. That sort of also plugs into the working groups thing, and I don't know, things of capacity. We have to see. But with this conversation, maybe Gideon, are you planning to do the what was the name, the incubation program planning this spring? Maybe I just added it straight, or is it for the next one?
I think I'd probably start it. If I'm going to do this before I take off, I would probably start it this sprint. Just, it won't be done in this sprint. One other thing on capacity is we haven't even looked at the bottom of that document, which is the supporting TEC initiatives, which includes this community-driven strategy process, which I'm starting to have some questions about, and I want to talk to Bear and Tam and Livia about. But moving to optimism, man, I have no idea what hit that's going to be, but I think it could be significant. So, yeah, Isaac, I think your point is a really good one. about just being careful about how much we try to take on,
Yeah.
especially with me being gone.
Yeah.
That just reminds me. Yeah, I think that's totally fair what you guys are saying. Like, just be mindful of. I think it's like go slow to go fast. There's something like that. Yeah, I think we kind of have to go slow right now and take one thing at a time as we can. I wanted to touch on this idea. I think we just touched on this async last week, but I like the idea of putting out a blog post regarding the QF tool and what we're doing with QF, kind of a follow-up to the SME signal boosting, and to work on that adjacent to the community call on September 20th. And so how I see this is, I think Gideon, I kind of want to present what I've got going on with the QF analysis to you, maybe a couple of times, and then we can just sketch out like a narrative that we could publish, and then we can work on that blog together and aiming for around September 20th, if you think that's doable.
Yeah, I think a lot's going to just depend on these projects and what we prioritize. But yeah, I think so. And like, I think that yes, I would be up for like trying to like come up with like a streamlined process for maybe I interview you, and then I just like do an outline, and then you could take that outline and then just write, and then we can iterate on it. Something like that, like some way of doing, like getting really good at doing these quickly. I think would be fun to do.
Absolutely, that sounds great.
Also, going back a bit to this idea of the capacity of the team, that I also share and agree that it's really important. I think as a team, we're still on time to do any changes to the actual proposal, right? I think if we think that the work there might be a bit too much for us, I think it would be totally fine for us to reflect on that and make any changes. I'm a lot of this idea of under promising and over delivering, right? So maybe what we can do based on our capacity is just to maybe try to remove some of the items, some of the priorities, kind of like rearrange things, and then if we are able to take on them during these months, then great, right? Like we know what would be next, right? Even if it's not part of the proposal itself, but for the sake of the proposal, maybe it would be worth revisiting it a bit based on our capacity. I don't know what people think about that.
I have some
I would
mixed
say,
feelings.
go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, I'll jump in. I think it is smart to have also a very narrow focus, but I think we can also be honest. We can also be forthright that, the incubation program isn't going to be launched in 3 months, but it is going to maybe, phase 1 and phase 2 will be advanced during this 3-month period, if that makes sense. And that's why I think it could be helpful for us to take these and actually build a project charter for each one, so we could see what will be possible to deliver in September, October, November, and then we can be more forthright with like what phases of these will be finished by that time. But I totally agree that we wouldn't want it to seem like all of these are going to be solved in 3 months, but that, they're all going to be worked on in these 3-month period. And the other thing, I think this incubation program, and this is the one that's sort of like, it's such a big question mark, right? But I think it's important that people know that this is something that the team is working on, because the truth is there's a lot of great projects that deserve more funding, even from the TEC, than they can get through QF. And if the community isn't aware that we're even thinking about solving for that, it might seem as if we're not working on the correct priorities, even if we can't deliver it in the proposal for 3 months.
think that's fair, and kind of what I was going to say. Also, if we think the proposal is not, if we think that there's some additional feedback or advice process that needs to be done to the proposal before um, publishing it, I would just add that as part of the task, and whoever owns the task should, to mark it as done. That's should do whatever it takes um, to complete that feedback, whether that's setting up a different call or making sure to take time on next Tuesday to have feedback or whatever it is. If we consider it's not completed, but overall, I wouldn't be. Yeah, I would just be honest. We don't have to completely remove it. We just have to say, like Tam says. Um, yeah.
I'll give you one candidate. I think that this TC community-driven strategy process, I think that it is vulnerable. There are reasons that go beyond what we should probably go into in this call, but basically, I think that process, community-driven strategy process, we may want to wait until we have the community restored. Because if we did it right now, it's going to be the same small group of people who are already engaged right now. And I'm not sure it'll be as meaningful if we were to do something like this. I think there's some important stakes that we need to put in the ground about what we do and what we don't do, but to do like a full-blown process like that, it may be premature. So that could be something that we could knock out for later and save us some resources. And then I don't know, Tam, that's one thing that would be good to kind of get our heads around is the chain migration. Like what that's likely to require from the coordination team. And I'm not expecting you to have like the answers right now, but like that, some conversation around that I think would be probably important.
Yeah, it's one of the issues that I added for myself for the sprint, actually. And it's really a high level scope of what it would take. I've started a lot of I'm working on the project to migrate the Common Stack tooling, Aragon DAO tooling to Optimism, which is really with SEM to like lay the groundwork for a possible migration of TEC to Optimism. And as part of that, we've gone through some of the technical challenges of the actual migration. So I've captured a lot of this. I mean, even things like how do we even transfer that money? What bridge do we use? So there's a lot of the elements from the technical side to go through. I see Nate just dropped. He already started a scratch paper for this. Maybe if you don't mind, Nate, we could keep using this, and I could start filling out a lot of this as well. I think the goal for me for this sprint with that is just to understand the interdependencies of what's happening when, the risks, the technical risks, and then what a cultural plan, like drafting what the cultural plan could look like in order to get the community to approve it. So that is where I'm thinking eventually this should be the groundwork for a community vote. But in this sprint, it would just be drafting very high level the elements, the interdependencies, and the things that would have to happen in what order in order for us to have a successful migration to Optimism if the community votes for it. There are some elements around like the benefits and the negative consequences. That's not necessarily in the scope that I'm working on, but it might sort of come up as part of it. I see that Nate already put some ideas in there. One of the big benefits is it's really hard to be on Gnosis and to buy DAI and then to convert it to XDAI and then to wrap it and then to buy TEC with your wrapped XDAI. The idea of somebody just being able to buy TEC on Optimism with anything is really compelling.
Right. Well, actually, that's good timing because the next one was Yutam on the list. So maybe you want to chat about everything for this sprint.
Yeah, sure. I just added a simple project charter. It's going to be like just 4 bullet points or something, right? Like just something very simple. So everyone who's working on one of these projects can have the same information in the same format. So it's easy for us to follow. And then, I mean, that'll be done maybe not today because it's late here already, but tomorrow. And then this idea of pulling together all of the information around dependencies for migration to optimism and timelines, like when it'll be ready. There's one interesting thing here that comes up as part of the work that the Blossom Labs team is doing. They are also modifying Tau voting to be able to use 2 tokens. And this is in preparation for introducing a reputation token if a community wants to use reputation and the monetary token to vote. So it introduces an interesting opportunity for the TEC to go back and to at the same time as the migration to introduce a reputation token in the TEC. This is very interesting, but it's going to be one of the opportunities that the TEC has. There's no reason, there could be reasons to do it at a later date, but it also seems like a opportunity to do both at the same time. And so that scope I'm actually really looking forward to doing. And then I'll work with Isaac on converting the project prospectus. Although now that we're looking at this proposal specifically, maybe that one can wait, and we could just focus on this proposal, the 5 projects in this proposal, and continuing to support Enki with the supporting the Scrum process, joining all of these meetings, helping where I can. And the TEC advisory network, I did not work on it over my vacation. So I have some feedback to incorporate, and then I'll do another round of advice process with the incorporated feedback. And then I believe we posted on the forum the sprint, to be honest. The next call is on Friday, so I should have hopefully incorporated plus additional feedback ready for the advisory network call on Friday.
Cool, thanks. I'm honestly really looking forward to the optimism stuff. Probably we should think of also having a few open sessions, because now the um, the opportunity space, the design space for all the opportunities that this migration comes with is really interesting, and we just haven't really had the chance to talk through with everyone here on the team, or just the broader set of stakeholders at the TUC, and that'd be very interesting. I know Nate has quite a few ideas. I have quite a few ideas myself of things that we can do at the migration to take it just advantage of this momentum and this big movement. So yeah.
Well, you make me so honestly, the things I'm really thinking about, like I'm really like rubber hits the road. Like, how do we actually execute and get this done? I'm less thinking about the okay, what is the strategic advantages? So I would really love to, wisdom of crowds here and get everyone your thoughts and Vera's thoughts, and of course Sean, you too, and Gideon, Griff, and many other people as well. So maybe we can either hold a separate session on it, or not next week, but the week after. So the following sprint, one of our team calls can really be focused on, the strategy of TEC on optimism, because there's going to be other kinds of things that are gonna like spin out of this migration. Collaborations with optimism, maybe even proposals to optimism for other things on TEC. So I think it's gonna open up it's going to spin out a bunch of different like other projects that we can work on with this, and I'm really not thinking of them right now. So I think it'd be great for us to think of those things together.
Yeah, we can probably set up like a doodle, or let us meet for like you said, not the coming week, but the next one, and probably look for at least 1.5 hour, 2 hours. Maybe not everyone can do 2 hours, but I have the sense that this is not a one call 1 hour thing. It's probably going to take longer, but yeah, we can do that. I want to do that.
Okay, I'll take on. I noted it, and I will take on doing that the week of the 18th.
Okay, cool. Thanks. Um, all right. So next one we have Nate. Here you have 4 tasks.
Yep. Do you want me to speak on
Nate.
that? Or?
Oh, yeah. Okay, we can hear you now.
Yeah, so the team book club is something that we wanted to do as a group. And so I think that we still have interest in doing this. I'm not sure if anybody else is opposed to it. But yeah, I think it's still a good thing to do. And we could kind of have so just incorporate this within the events of just kind of having these kind of open sessions with people who just want to come hang out and make that a normal thing. I think the big thing about this is just creating a kind of a cadence for us to kind of engage with each other on other topics that will kind of bring us closer together and bring other people into the community. And then the promotion of the community call, I did not make this task, but it's
Yeah.
going to be necessary. So it's just, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, that was me. I guess we can take just a brief second to see who's actually up to own this task. This one is just to structure and promote the community call I set up with YGG on the 20th of September 20th.
Yeah, and so I guess just having kind of our Twitter promotions before then, and also engagement in other areas such as the forum and other places
Yeah.
our stakeholders might be, I think would be pretty good. But yeah, we can incorporate that within the planning document for the community call.
Okay, and I guess um, are you all three, Gideon, Nate, and Joseph, fine with being on the task? Does anyone feel like not necessarily taking over it, or does anyone feels like strongly or like they want to lead this particular one? I just want to make sure that um, that before this sprint ends, that we have announced the community call so that we have time for people to note it down on their calendars and whatnot.
I don't mind doing like just a quick plan that's like a kind of like an outline for a plan. I don't think I can own all of the pieces of this, but I can own the plan and I can own the tweets for getting it out. But like putting up like a forum post in the Discord, I think I would need others to take that part on. So, but I'm happy to do the first part.
And YGG, you mentioned that you might have a blog post as well, referring to the work you're doing with the QF, and maybe we can incorporate the promotion of the community call within that.
Yeah. I'm looking to collaborate with Gideon on a blog post.
I'm just right now. I'm kind of looking at. I basically have like 3.5 weeks, and so I just need to make sure that I'm prioritizing my time the best way possible. So, yeah, that's the thing that I'm looking at right now. Also, one of the other things that is probably worth mentioning as we're thinking about longer term, kind of like scanning longer term. October and that first week of November, I'm not going to be able to do comms stuff. So like Twitter. So we need to think a little bit about how we handle that during that period, and especially if there's any long lead stuff for the next QF round. I don't know, Isaac, if they probably haven't announced any dates for that, but that would be good to try to lock down as quickly as possible, like what those dates are.
Yeah. Well, I don't have much faith in Gitcoin's time, and we'll see if they get it better this time. I'll ask them when we chat about the civil analysis if they have any ballpark dates of this. Okay, well, let's continue. Then after Nate, we have this one. Oh, this one I remember we did 1 or 2 sprints ago, and I just moved it to the 10, just like as a reminder for us to check it. We should probably think of migrating the documentation from the handbook to Notion or whatever place we choose. So far, we've had everything on Notion, so probably makes sense to move it to Notion. But we have to think about this. I have the sense that it's not that smart to work on this or to take on this sprint, so I may just move it to another one. But I'm curious to hear if anyone thinks otherwise.
I've been slowly working on this for the last couple sprints, so it's being very close to done. So it's just something I'm going to keep finishing up on.
Well, I'll assign it to you then as well. Okay, that's nice. Thanks. Next we have you, Gideon. You have, what is that? Six tasks. This one we chatted about already. Maybe you want to chat about the rest of them.
Yeah, so I think that one's going to be relatively easy to get out the plan for it, but this is one where I probably will want to talk with the TCAN, the advisory network, particularly Griff, in terms of actually approaching potential sponsors. But I will frame up the probably this week or next, do this, just kind of frame this up, and then yeah, probably need some help over the next few weeks actually starting to pitch it. So I think this is okay. This is okay to have in this sprint.
Okay, then this. You said
same with this one. It's okay to have in this, but this is going to definitely carry over into sprint 11, which you got, so that makes sense. And just actually, while I've got the mic,
yep.
I know that YGG and Isaac are interested in this. Are there other people who would like to be consulted on that incubation program? Tam, I probably am going to ask you some stuff regardless, and also the advisory network for sure. But anybody else?
Yeah, maybe me more in the kind of maybe a little bit more high level stuff, but yeah, I like to be involved as well.
Sounds good. Okay.
Okay. Then you have these 3 ones.
You know what? I feel like this identified new donor segments is just hanging over me. Can we just cancel that one, and I'll roll that. I'm going to roll that into the marketing plan.
Okay. Okay. Right.
And then this one, like I was saying, I have some questions. I also want to run this by the advisory network this week. Just to kind of just like a sanity check, does the timing for this really make sense? I mean, I'm kind of excited to do it, but this is going to take, this will be a resource intensive undertaking. So, maybe we push this out until later. So I'll keep it on here for right now, but just know that this one might actually disappear or get pushed back until next year.
Okay. And finally, we have this one, which we have already chatted about when
Yeah.
in there's time.
Yeah.
Okay. Then we have Martha Matt. He's not here, and now we have you, Sean. 1 second. Because I thought I added another one. Maybe I just didn't mark the this current sprint. YGG, Sean.
Also, while you're looking at
Post.
YGG's and mine, I don't know if is it worth putting in the blog, the tool blog post is in there. It's okay.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. I mean, the blog post is a nice to have. And we thought, we chatted, it would be nice to have it with the community call, like at the same time. But in I don't think it's like, the top priority. So if it has to be later, it can be later. But having like a profound deep dive on how QF and public goods funding work with all the um, graphics and models and all that YGG is playing with. I think it's very powerful and it's nice. But yeah, whatever. I'll pass it over to you, Sharon.
Yeah, I think the process of working towards a blog is gonna really help inform the presentation on the 20th and the direction of the app. So it's kind of a two birds with one stone. Like, I really just want advice from Gideon on what we should be making, but in the process, we might as well make a blog out of it. Is there another? Is that what we're talking about, the blog, or do you want me to touch on the general QF? I guess. Are we talking about round 2?
Yeah, I guess it's overall the work that you plan to do on this sprint. So I would say pretty much it's probably around the QF and also specifically helping me deliver results of the second round.
Yeah, excellent. That's exciting. I guess there's a decision to be made whether we go with the same algo, SME algo. Well, we can use some of the tools to investigate the results. Yeah, we can dog food what we have so far. So, how about on Thursday, we take a look at the grant round 2 results and what it would mean to apply the basic algorithm from last time or some augmentation to the algorithm. Yeah, we can explore that this Thursday.
Nice. Yeah, I guess we could. We don't have like the post civil analysis results. We could play with this as it is right now, just to check some pre results, and then when we have the final set, we.
Okay, so we're
update that.
waiting on the final data set from Gitcoin. Is that right?
Yeah, the data set we have right now, it's like
Raw donations.
raw donations. Then they do some civil analysis. Not sure what exactly they do, and then we can go ahead and do whatever it is that we want to do.
Great.
Well, okay. Looks like we are over with the planning. We have little less than half an hour of the scheduled meeting. I guess I'll just open it up now. See any other comments, feedback, or general chatting, and if there's nothing else, then we can wrap this up a bit earlier today.
I just maybe want to ask, did we take these 5 different, like all of these 5 different projects in the funding proposal on the task board? On the sprint board right now?
Not explicitly, but I sent I feel like a lot of us have taken work that belongs to them, so well, we could be more explicit about that. We also have some how do you say it, like, well, work, like I have some work that's not completed from the past round, and I personally wouldn't be able to take on much more this sprint. for example.
Sure, but we could put. I mean, is that maybe? Let me ask another question. Do we feel like the proposal is these 5 things are final, or are they still changing? They're pretty final, right?
I believe so. Gideon or Bear or anyone else?
Yeah. I would say so too. Yeah, but I also I kind of like agree with Tom. I don't know. I feel that we just have to be just to make sure that at least we have some clarity on kind of like the owners of the projects, even if there's no work happening on them. I don't know if it would be worth, for example, going maybe into the kind of like projects board into that level and have those 5 projects there and just assign a responsible that maybe can work on the project charter or project plan. Or I'm also a bit, that's another question that I had. I was a bit confused in regards with what I understand, Isaac, is that in the projects board you have kind of like drafted a template for projects. So I'm not exactly sure what's the difference or what's going to be the difference between that and like the project charter that Tam is suggesting. But whatever that is, I do think it would be probably helpful to have these 5 priorities already be part of this with a respective owner or responsible, and then probably have that person work on the plans during this next sprint or next 2 sprints, right? Having said this, on the fiduciary stewardship, that be a project that maybe if there's not anyone else that it's interested, I would like to take a try on to come up with some initial planning, and that maybe is another task that we can include in the sprint as the planning, but also to add me here in the project layer as responsible of that. I don't know. Probably there were many things that I'd said at the same time, but
Awesome.
I hope it makes sense.
No, it was all super clear. And I see, Isaac, you are adding each of these projects. Now I see the TE grant rounds 3, TE is public goods. I guess that's the community events one. Maybe we can make sure we know that that's something that have related to community. We can work on the naming convention for these, but maybe we can assign already to the owner just to draft just to draft something about this project, what they think they can do in 3 months, what milestones there would be, any assumptions that they're making, and maybe any risks. And that's basically all the project charter would be. I mean, it's almost too informal to call it a project charter. It's just a way that we can standardize how we describe projects, like what it is that we like, what are the phases, what it is that will be delivered, what is the rough timeline for when those will be delivered, any risks to the projects. And here is already, a pretty good scope of what the project is already in the proposal document itself. And that way, at least on the sprint board, these are assigned to someone, even if they're not yet going into this sprint right now, which is sprint 10.
I think it's really good. And I mean, just to go through these real quick, just so we're clear on who's signing up for what. TE Grants Round 3, Isaac, right? Community Events, Nate. Incubation Program, me, even though I'll ask for some help on, this is going to be true for everything. So, and then the fundraising marketing, me, and then the fiduciary stewardship, Bear. Is that all? Are we in sync on that, or should we talk about that some more?
About the fundraising one, I may as well just use this existing project, right? This was like we never really. I wasn't. We made the project, but I wasn't clear what it was exactly. Now it seems that there's more clarity. So maybe we just use this one, right? And I just have to add now the incubation program. Yep. Okay, 1 second.
Yeah, and there should probably be one for marketing as well.
Okay. So that's people, that's Gideon, and then marketing, I'll just call.
And then two more comments on this. One of them would be that, yeah, then I guess it would make sense to have a task within each of these projects that is filling out this project template, right? Maybe for this coming sprint, that all of us, all the responsibles, need to do that. Okay, and having said that, I'm also right now wondering if it would be worth doing kind of like this same thing with the initiatives that we have to support. I know, like Gideon was saying about, you know, the community decision making, TEC strategy driven process that might be on hold, but there are others that we are more certain that will require support, like the stakeholder study, for example. So I'm just wondering, or like the migration. So I'm wondering if it would be worth to also include those as projects, or is there probably a better way to also keep track of them?
I would, because of probably because of overhead and setup and whatever, I would probably just have them as tasks. Like if it's not, if it's just a few things now and here and there that you do for an external group, it's probably best if we keep it as tasks and throw them into the operational blanket project, to avoid setting up a project and describing the project and all that for every single thing we do for others.
That makes sense, yeah. Or maybe there could be also another bucket that is just called like external support or something like that, and we just put them inside there. I don't know, just thinking out loud.
I'm sorry. I'm just doing stuff. Um, Anything else? Any other comments? Or
Yeah, maybe I'll just say one thing. I'm looking at the projects now, and I'm clicking on through the. I opened up the. If you want to open up the TEC migration, for example, you wanna. Yeah. This is basically that. This template here is the perfect project charter. The timeline, deliverables, scope, goals. I think this is. I think this is it already. I think that we already made this
yeah,
template.
seems like you forgot, but you helped me do that on
Yes,
Friday.
I did, but I think so. It would like whoever is owning these. It'd be great if each of us can go in and just fill out to the best of your ability these little headings.
Yeah, please. And well, I guess with everything, I'm happy to help. Like if anyone wants to just jump in, like take 30 minutes, 1 hour to jump in with me and jam on any project description, I'm happy to spend some time. Once again, I'll open the floor. I'll count down to 5, and if there's not anything else, we can wrap the call early and start working in, this. I'm actually pretty happy with this planning. I think this is probably one of the best plannings we've ever had, especially on a sprint outside of a big project like the grants program. That's nice. Yeah, whatever. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Well, thanks everybody. See you guys later.
See you, everybody. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, Isaac.
Thanks,
Thank
Santi.
you.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everyone.
Good day. Thanks all. See you later.